The city lights of New York always seemed to stretch endlessly from my penthouse window, a glittering tapestry of ambition and opportunity. I was Daniel, 27 years old, and the designated heir to Sterling Enterprises, a multi-billion-dollar tech conglomerate that bore my family's name and legacy. My life, meticulously curated by my father, Robert Sterling, was a gilded cage, albeit one with breathtaking views and limitless resources. Every decision, from my education to my career path, had been carefully orchestrated by him, a powerful, calculating man who valued control above all else. I had always played my part. I attended the right schools, joined the right clubs, and diligently worked my way up the corporate ladder at Sterling, always under his watchful eye. There was a quiet understanding that one day it would all be mine. My existence, while privileged, often felt like a series of checkboxes designed to fulfill my father's grand vision. But then there was Vivian. She wasn't a checkbox. She was a supernova. Stunningly beautiful, with a cascade of dark hair, eyes that sparkled with playful mischief, and a laugh that could light up a room. Vivian was an alluring socialite, moving through the city's elite circles with effortless grace. She was everything my curated life wasn't: vibrant, unpredictable, and utterly captivating. Our whirlwind romance had swept me off my feet, a heady mix of late-night dinners, exclusive parties, and stolen moments that felt intensely real amidst the polished facade of my world. She was my latest acquisition, as my father might put it, but to me, she was so much more. She was the missing piece, the splash of vivid color in an otherwise impeccably framed portrait. I imagined a future with her, one where her vivacious spirit could finally break through the rigid structure of my inherited life. I saw us traveling the world, building our own legacy, perhaps even shaking up Sterling in a way that would make it truly mine. The day I brought Vivian home to meet my father was etched in my memory. It was a Sunday evening, the grand dining room of our Fifth Avenue penthouse, bathed in the soft glow of crystal chandeliers. Usually, these family dinners were tense affairs, filled with my father's incisive questions about market trends and my latest performance reviews. But tonight, it was different. From the moment Vivian walked in, radiant in a shimmering gown, my father's demeanor shifted. Robert, a man rarely given to effusive displays, was unusually approving. He rose to greet her with a genuine smile, a warmth in his eyes I rarely saw, directed at anyone outside of a successful quarterly report. He was immediately charmed by her vivacious personality. Vivian, ever the social chameleon, navigated his probing questions with an easy wit and a dazzling smile that seemed to disarm even him. The conversation flowed effortlessly. They talked about art, about international travel, about the shifting landscape of social media. Vivian regaled him with anecdotes from her latest charity gala, and my father, usually so reserved, chuckled aloud multiple times. He even poured her a second glass of his finest Bordeaux, a rare indulgence. I watched them, a profound sense of relief washing over me. This was it. This was the approval I craved, not just for myself, but for the woman I genuinely believed I loved. The evening was filled with laughter and easy conversation, a stark contrast to the typical Sterling dinner. There was no dissection of my professional shortcomings, no veiled criticisms of my choices. Just genuine warmth, or so it seemed. My father spoke about the future of Sterling, hinting at a larger role for me, and Vivian listened with rapt attention, offering insightful comments that seemed to delight him further. He even made a toast to our future, to the blending of families, a rare sentiment from such a pragmatic man. I went to bed that night with the distinct impression that my life was finally falling perfectly into place. I had the power, the money, the lineage. And now I had Vivian, who had effortlessly charmed the uncharmable. I envisioned our wedding, the succession plans, the empire that would soon be mine, shared with the woman who understood me, who breathed life into my structured existence. I drifted off to sleep with a contented smile, the city lights twinkling outside my window, promising an even brighter future. But the future, as I was about to discover, held a darkness I couldn't possibly have imagined. A darkness orchestrated by the very people I trusted most. My perfect life was about to shatter, not with a bang, but with a horrifying silent revelation. The pleasant warmth of that evening would soon turn into a chilling realization, and the laughter, an echo of a betrayal so profound it would shake the very foundations of my existence. What I thought was a dream come true was, in fact, a meticulously crafted nightmare, and I, the heir apparent, was merely a pawn in a game I hadn't even known was being played. The cool marble floor of the hallway felt like ice beneath my bare feet, a stark contrast to the sweltering summer night that had stirred me from my sleep. A sudden, unshakable thirst had pulled me from the depths of a contented dream, a dream of Vivian and me, finally building our future. But as I padded towards the kitchen, a flicker of light from Vivian's bedroom door ajar caught my eye. That was unusual. She was a creature of habit, meticulous about her privacy. Then a soft, almost imperceptible click of the front door echoed through the silent penthouse. My heart gave a curious little lurch. Where was she going at this hour? My instincts, dulled by a lifetime of privilege and trust, suddenly sharpened. Curious, I decided to follow her. My steps were muffled by the plush carpets of our luxurious penthouse, a silent observer in my own unfolding nightmare. I peered around the corner of the grand staircase, my breath catching in my throat. Vivian was not heading for a late-night stroll or an urgent errand. Instead, she moved with a furtive grace towards the forbidden wing of the penthouse, my father's private study, his inner sanctum. My blood ran cold. She paused at the imposing mahogany door, her silhouette framed by the faint moonlight filtering through the tall windows. She raised her hand and knocked softly, a timid rap that belied the brazenness of her presence. The door opened almost immediately, as if on cue. And then, to my shock, I watched, paralyzed. It was my father. Robert Sterling, in his silk dressing gown, his usually stern face softened by a lazy smile. Before I could even process the sight, he reached out, pulled Vivian inside, and then, in a slow-motion horror, their lips met. It wasn't a gentle peck. It was a passionate kiss, fierce and consuming, a desperate melding of two people who knew each other intimately. Their bodies pressed together, a hungry embrace that left no room for doubt. I saw her hand creep up to cup his cheek, his arm tighten around her waist. The scene unfolded before me like a perverse theatrical performance, lit by the sliver of light from the study. My father, the man who had always preached decorum and restraint, who had meticulously orchestrated every aspect of my life, was locked in a fervent embrace with the woman I was planning to marry. They broke apart for a moment, their eyes locked, a shared secret passing between them, before they disappeared into the room, the heavy door clicking shut, sealing me out. The sound resonated in the cavernous hallway, echoing the emptiness that suddenly bloomed in my chest. My mind reeled. The laughter from the dinner just hours before, the warm approval in my father's eyes, his toast to our blending of families. It all twisted into a grotesque mockery. Stunned and nauseous, I retreated to my room, the plush carpet now feeling like a quicksand that threatened to swallow me whole. I stumbled back into my opulent bedroom, the grandeur of it suddenly oppressive. The shimmering city lights outside my window, once a promise, now seemed to mock me with their cold, indifferent sparkle. I felt lightheaded, as if the very oxygen in the room had been stolen. My father, Vivian. It was an unthinkable, visceral punch to the gut. The sheer audacity, the deception. A cold dread settled over me, solid and unyielding. It wasn't just the betrayal. It was the chilling realization that my carefully constructed reality was a lie. My first instinct was to confront them, to storm into that study and unleash a torrent of furious accusations. But then, a flicker of my father's calculating nature, a trait I had always admired in him, surfaced within me. Confrontation would mean chaos, denial, and a messy public spectacle. I needed proof, irrefutable, undeniable proof. My eyes fell on Vivian's phone, carelessly left on her bedside table, a beacon of truth in my darkening world. My hands trembled as I reached for it, a sudden invasion of privacy fueled by a desperate need for answers. My finger hovered over the screen. What if I was wrong? What if there was an innocent explanation? But the image of their kiss, so raw and undeniable, banished any lingering hope. I unlocked her phone, my heart hammering against my ribs. Her recent calls were innocuous. Her social media, a perfectly curated facade. But then I found it, a hidden folder, a series of messages. My breath hitched. The first few were cryptic, then they grew bolder, more intimate. Miss you, darling. Counting down the hours. My stomach churned. The sender? A contact simply labeled Robert Sr. Robert Sr. That was my father's private line, the one only a select few had. I scrolled through, each message a fresh stab. Then came the bombshell. My eyes darted across the screen, unable to process the words, yet unable to look away. Texts discussing the plan, the timeline, the announcement. And then, the ultimate, horrifying confirmation. Are you sure the doctor's confident? We can't afford any slip-ups. It needs to be Daniel's, for the family, for our future. My vision swam. Pregnant. Daniel's. Our future. A chilling, nauseating clarity washed over me. Incriminating messages revealing she was pregnant with my father's child, planning to pass it off as mine. The air thickened around me, suffocating. I felt lightheaded, as if the very oxygen in the room had been stolen. My father, Robert Sterling, my mentor, my family. This was beyond betrayal. This was a meticulously crafted, twisted plot. A grand, horrifying scheme to bring his mistress into the family, to secure her position openly within the household, all under the guise of a loving relationship with me. I, Daniel Sterling, the heir apparent, the son, the fiancé. I was nothing but a pawn, a convenient, naive fool to legitimize a scandalous affair. My entire life felt like a stage, and I had been playing a meticulously scripted role, utterly unaware of the puppet master pulling the strings or the true nature of the other players. The laughter from dinner, my father's approving smile, Vivian's charming wit, it all now took on a sinister, manipulative sheen. Every word, every gesture had been a calculated performance. I was being used, profoundly, publicly. A new kind of coldness settled within me, colder than the dread, colder than the shock. It was the chilling emptiness of utter betrayal, replaced by a nascent, fierce determination. This wasn't just about heartbreak, it was about survival. It was about reclaiming my name, my future, and my legacy. They had played me for a fool, but they had severely underestimated the fool. I put Vivian's phone back exactly where I found it, every movement precise, rehearsed. I wiped away the lingering fingerprints, erased my digital footprint. The mask of calm settled over my face, a mask of the naive, trusting son. Inside, a storm raged, but outside, I was perfectly still. They thought they had orchestrated the perfect deception. They had no idea they had just awakened a dormant predator. The game was far from over. It had just begun, and this time, I would be the one pulling the strings. The next morning, the aroma of gourmet coffee and sizzling bacon filled the penthouse kitchen, a stark contrast to the acid churning in my stomach. I was already seated at the polished mahogany breakfast table when Vivian, humming a cheerful tune, re-entered our room. I feigned sleep as she quietly slipped back into bed, listening to the soft rustle of sheets, my mind already calculating. Downstairs, the breakfast scene was a tableau of domestic bliss, carefully constructed lies. My father, Robert, sat at the head of the table, engrossed in the Wall Street Journal, a picture of patriarchal contentment. Vivian, radiating an almost unnerving cheerfulness, flitted about, pouring juice and arranging pastries. The tension in my body was a coiled spring, ready to snap. "Good morning, gentlemen," Vivian chirped, her voice light as she slid into her seat beside me. Her eyes sparkled, not with love for me, but with a triumphant glee I now recognized as chillingly calculating. I managed a strained, "Good morning," my voice flat. My father lowered his paper, a customary, almost perfunctory nod in my direction. Then, with a flourish, Vivian took a deep breath, her hands clasped over her stomach. Her smile widened, radiating with an Oscar-worthy performance of pure joy. "I have some wonderful news," she announced, her voice a little louder than necessary, ensuring even the household staff in the periphery could hear. "I'm pregnant. 2 months." The words, though expected, still hit me like a physical blow. I felt the blood drain from my face. My father's head snapped up from his newspaper, a wide, beatific smile immediately spreading across his face. His eyes, usually cold, gleamed with an almost theatrical delight. He rose from his chair, walking around the table to embrace Vivian, patting her stomach with a tenderness that made my skin crawl. He played the delighted grandfather-to-be, congratulating her effusively, already talking about Sterling's newest heir. I sat frozen, a chilling silence in my heart. My coffee mug felt like a block of ice in my hand. The laughter and easy conversation from that dinner, just 2 nights ago, now echoed like a monstrous joke. The betrayal from both the woman I loved and the father I revered solidified into a cold, calculating rage. They had planned this. Every charming word, every approving glance from my father, every seductive smile from Vivian. I was merely a prop in their twisted narrative. But I wouldn't be a victim. Not anymore. My mind, usually prone to introspection and self-doubt, suddenly sharpened with a crystalline clarity. The rage wasn't a blinding force, it was a potent fuel. I wouldn't confront them. Not yet. That would be messy, emotional, and give them the upper hand. No, I would play their game, but I would play it better. I decided to leverage the remaining months of Vivian's pregnancy. It was a ticking clock, a finite window of opportunity. Every day she grew larger, more committed to this deception, the more ammunition I would gather. My plan began subtly, meticulously. I started spending more time at Sterling Enterprises, immersing myself in every department, every project. I feigned an almost obsessive dedication, explaining it as preparing for fatherhood and ensuring the company's future for the next generation. My father, ever the control freak, saw my newfound zeal as a positive development, proof that I was finally maturing into the role he had envisioned. He even praised my focus, completely oblivious to the true nature of my intent. I secretly began consolidating power within Sterling Enterprises. My first move was to cultivate relationships with key board members, who had long felt marginalized by my father's autocratic style. I listened to their grievances, offered solutions to their long-standing frustrations, and subtly presented myself as a more collaborative, forward-thinking leader. I invited them to private dinners, not at the family penthouse, but at discreet restaurants, where I could speak freely, planting seeds of doubt about my father's recent decisions and his increasingly erratic management. I also targeted crucial executives, the unsung heroes who kept the company running. I learned their pain points, offered them unprecedented autonomy on projects, and promised them greater recognition under my leadership. Many of them, tired of Robert's micromanagement and the growing chaos caused by Cassandra's, Vivian's pseudonym in company emails, incompetence, were receptive. I started forming my own loyal network, a shadow cabinet within Sterling. I systematically isolated my father from key board members and executives. I ensured that important reports landed on my desk before his, that crucial meetings were scheduled when he was unavailable, or simply failed to inform him of internal shifts until they were a fait accompli. I carefully funneled information, subtly shifting alliances, and slowly eroding his once unshakable authority. He dismissed it as my growing pains, as a leader, a testament to my initiative. He was blind, consumed by his own hubris and his secret. I orchestrated a series of strategic maneuvers, each one designed to subtly undermine his influence. I pushed for modernization initiatives that subtly made his long-standing old guard allies redundant. I championed bold, risky ventures that, if successful, would elevate my standing even further, and if they failed, would be attributed to my youthful exuberance, something he could easily absorb while he was still nominally in charge. Slowly but surely, I was forcing his hand towards early retirement. Meanwhile, Vivian, basking in the glow of her supposed pregnancy, became increasingly bold. She started talking about wedding plans, about the need to make it official before the baby arrived. She'd excitedly show me Pinterest boards of elaborate ceremonies, seemingly oblivious to the ice in my veins. "Darling," she'd purr, stroking my arm, "we need to set a date. The baby will be here before we know it." I would feign a sigh, running a hand through my hair. "Vivian, my love," I'd say, forcing a tired smile. "You know how much I want this. But the demands at Sterling right now? The market is so volatile, and with the baby coming, I need to be absolutely focused on securing our future." I skillfully delayed, citing business pressures and the need to wait until after the baby's birth. I painted myself as the responsible, diligent heir, putting family and company first. She bought it. My father, surprisingly, supported my stance, probably eager to delay the public scrutiny of a sudden, rushed marriage to a visibly pregnant Vivian. Their shared secret gave me the leverage I needed. They couldn't push too hard without risking exposure. The next few months were a masterclass in deception. I played the doting fiancé, attending prenatal appointments, feigning excitement over ultrasound photos. Every kick of the baby, every nauseous morning Vivian endured, was a bitter reminder of the betrayal and a silent cheer for my nearing victory. They thought they had secured their future. They had no idea I was systematically dismantling it, one calculated move at a time. The countdown to their downfall had begun. The cool marble floor of the hallway felt like ice beneath my bare feet, a stark contrast to the sweltering summer night that had stirred me from my sleep. I had feigned sleep the morning Vivian announced her pregnancy, suppressing the chilling silence in my heart, fueling a cold, calculating rage. For months I played the dutiful fiancé and the focused heir, all while systematically eroding my father's power within Sterling Enterprises. My skilled delays of the wedding, citing business pressures, had given me the precious time I needed. Now, the time for pretense was over. After Vivian gave birth, a boy, I felt a grim satisfaction. I held the newborn, forcing a smile for the cameras, a picture-perfect tableau of the proud father-to-be. My father, Robert, beamed beside me, oblivious to the storm gathering around him. He bought Vivian an extravagant diamond necklace, and for the baby, a substantial trust fund from Sterling's coffers. All for the public eye, of course. For him, the game was won. For me, it was just beginning. I put my final plan into motion. The lullaby of the baby monitor in Vivian's room was a counterpoint to the hum of my laptop as I meticulously cross-referenced everything. My first objective: irrefutable evidence of the affair. I went back to Vivian's phone, not just for the messages I'd seen that night, but for everything else. I used specialized software, discreetly acquired, to recover deleted texts, call logs, even hidden photos and videos. It was a digital breadcrumb trail leading directly to my father's infidelity. Dates, times, locations. Every piece of the puzzle confirmed their long-standing deception. Vivian's carefully curated social media posts, seemingly innocent, now stood as glaring proof when cross-referenced with my father's travel schedule. Next, I needed proof of the child's paternity. This was the linchpin. Using my access to Sterling's vast network and a significant amount of discreetly allocated funds, I arranged a clandestine DNA test. I obtained a sample from the newborn during a routine checkup I insisted on attending, subtly swabbing the inside of the baby's cheek while Vivian was distracted. For my father's sample, it was almost comically easy. I arranged a corporate wellness screening for top executives, making sure a specific, discrete DNA kit was used for his saliva sample. The results came back a week later, sealed and undeniable. The child was Robert Sterling's, not mine. The ultimate betrayal. With my arsenal complete, the incriminating messages, photos, call logs, and the cold, hard DNA results, I set the stage for the confrontation. This wouldn't be a shouting match. It would be a surgical strike. I arranged a tense, private confrontation with my father in his study, the very room where he and Vivian had sealed my fate. The same heavy mahogany door, the same imposing desk. But this time, I was not the naive son. I was the executioner. He sat behind his desk, imperious as ever, sorting through papers. He gestured for me to take a seat opposite him, a slight, impatient frown on his face. "Daniel, I assume this isn't about your latest marketing proposal. You look serious." I didn't sit. I walked around the desk, placing a thick, unmarked manila envelope directly in front of him. It was heavy, weighted with the truth. "It's about Sterling's future, father," I said, my voice calm, almost unnervingly so. "And about our family's integrity." He raised an eyebrow, a flicker of irritation crossing his face. "Get to the point, Daniel. I have a board meeting in an hour." "Oh, you'll want to clear your schedule for this, father," I countered, my voice laced with an edge he didn't recognize. "It concerns your recent acquisitions, specifically Vivian." His eyes narrowed. The playful indulgence vanished, replaced by the familiar hard glint of suspicion. "Vivian. What about her? You're marrying her, aren't you? The boy just arrived. What's the problem?" "The problem, father," I said, leaning over the desk, my voice dropping to a low, dangerous whisper, "is that the boy isn't mine." His face went utterly blank for a split second, a crack in his impenetrable facade. Then a flush of furious color spread across his neck. "What idiotic nonsense are you spouting now, Daniel? Are you suggesting my future grandchild?" "I'm not suggesting anything," I interrupted, cutting him off with a chilling finality. "I'm stating a fact supported by this." I pushed the envelope across the desk. He hesitated, then slowly, with trembling fingers, opened it. His eyes, usually so sharp, scanned the first few pages. His face drained of color as he saw the dates, the names, the explicit messages between him and Vivian. He flipped to the photos, his jaw tightening with each image. Then he pulled out the sealed lab report, the DNA test results. He stared at it, his hand shaking. The paper rustled. The silence in the room was suffocating, broken only by the frantic pounding of my own heart. The great Robert Sterling, the man who had always been 10 steps ahead, was finally caught. This is... this is blackmail, he rasped, his voice barely a whisper, hoarse with shock and a dawning terror. You wouldn't... Oh, I would, I confirmed, meeting his gaze directly. My voice was steady, utterly devoid of emotion. You taught me everything I know about ruthless strategy, Father, and I learned well. I took a step back, allowing him to process the magnitude of his ruin. Here's the situation. Vivian's phone records, the DNA results, your charming messages discussing the plan to pass off your love child as Sterling's legitimate heir. It's all here, enough to send your reputation and Sterling Corporation's stock into a free fall faster than you can say insider trading. His eyes darted around the room, assessing, calculating, searching for an escape route. There was none. I had meticulously closed every door. You have two choices, Father, I continued, my voice firm, laying out my ultimatum. Choice number one. You immediately abdicate your position as CEO and retire. You transfer full control of Sterling Enterprises to me. Not gradually, not eventually, immediately. Effective at the close of business today. All shares, all voting rights, all authority. Quietly, discreetly. A mutual agreement for your early, well-deserved retirement due to health reasons. His eyes blazed with a desperate defiance, the last embers of his former power. And if I don't? Choice number two, I stated, a cold, hard finality in my tone. I exposed the scandal, the affair, the paternity, the entire sordid deception. It goes to the board, to the press, to every major news outlet in the country. Imagine the headlines, Father. Sterling CEO's love child scandal rocks tech giant. Nepotism and deceit at Sterling Enterprises. Your reputation, the one you've spent a lifetime building, will be utterly destroyed. And Sterling Corporation's public image will be irrevocably damaged. The stock will tank, investors will flee. Your legacy will be reduced to a punchline, a cautionary tale of hubris and hypocrisy. I watched him, every muscle in his body tense. He was a cornered animal, but still a predator. His mind was racing, weighing the options, searching for a loophole. But there was none. I had anticipated every counter-move. He knew it. Think of the impact on the brand, Father, I pressed, twisting the knife. On the share price, on our standing in the market. The very empire you built, reduced to rubble by one foolish, selfish mistake. He closed his eyes, a defeated sigh escaping his lips. The fight drained from him, leaving behind only the bitter taste of capitulation. He had preached power and control his entire life, but now he was utterly powerless. Faced with undeniable proof and the threat of public ruin, Robert had no choice but to comply. He opened his eyes, looking at me with a gaze I had never seen before, a mixture of hatred, resignation, and perhaps a sliver of grudging respect. He had created a monster, and that monster was now devouring him. You win, Daniel, he rasped, his voice devoid of its usual authority. You win. I felt no triumph, only a cold, hollow satisfaction. The victory was mine, but the cost was the final death of my innocence and the utter dissolution of any remaining familial bond. Draft the resignation letter immediately, I instructed, my voice flat, already shifting into my new role as CEO. And initiate the transfer of all executive authority. I want it done by close of business, no leaks, no drama, just a quiet, dignified retirement. He nodded, a defeated slump in his shoulders. The man who had once terrified me, who had manipulated my entire life, was now broken. The love child, the symbol of their deception, remained without official recognition, eternally a stain on Robert Sterling's legacy. He and Vivian could live their lives together, but their secret, now exposed to me, would forever bind them in a gilded cage of their own making, the child a constant, living reminder of their deceit. And I, Daniel Sterling, would finally reclaim my life and my empire on my own terms. The heavy mahogany door of my father's study closed behind me, sealing in the silence of his defeat. I felt no grand triumph, no surge of unadulterated joy, just a cold, quiet satisfaction. The battle was won, the empire was mine, but the cost had been the demolition of my innocence and the severing of what little familial bond remained. My father, Robert Sterling, the man who had always seemed invincible, was finally broken. He signed the papers that afternoon, a forced, tight smile on his face for the small gathering of lawyers and board members I had assembled. They knew nothing of the true reasons, only that Robert Sterling, the titan of industry, was taking an early, much-deserved retirement due to health considerations. The press releases were already drafted, meticulously worded, to maintain a veneer of dignity. The transition was swift, seamless, and utterly devoid of emotion. Robert Sterling and Vivian remained together. They continued to live in the penthouse, a gilded cage where their secrets simmered beneath the surface of their privileged lives. The baby, a boy named Leo, grew, his innocent laughter echoing through halls filled with unspoken truths. He was doted on, showered with material wealth, but forever denied a legitimate place in the family. He was Robert Sterling's son, but publicly, he was still mine, a constant living testament to their intricate lie. Their relationship, built on a foundation of deceit, persisted, but it was tainted, a public secret whispered behind closed doors, an eternal stain on Robert's legacy. I saw them occasionally at family gatherings, their strained smiles and averted gazes speaking volumes. Vivian's vibrant energy had dimmed, replaced by a restless tension. My father, stripped of his power, seemed to shrink, his once formidable presence reduced to that of a bitter, aging man. My focus, however, was forward. Now firmly in control of Sterling Enterprises, I looked at the vast conglomerate my father had built, and I saw not just an empire, but a structure built on shaky, corrupt foundations. My first order of business was to dismantle those foundations. I initiated a comprehensive internal audit, exposing years of questionable dealings, unethical lobbying, and internal favoritism that had benefited my father's cronies and solidified his personal power. I cleaned house, firing corrupt executives, regardless of their long-standing ties to Robert. It was brutal, but necessary. My new vision for Sterling was clear: ethical leadership and genuine innovation. I shifted resources from stagnant, politically motivated projects to groundbreaking R&D. I empowered talented employees who had been overlooked, fostering a culture of meritocracy that was a stark contrast to my father's reign. I streamlined processes, championed transparency, and invested heavily in sustainable technologies. Slowly, painstakingly, I began rebuilding the company's reputation. It wasn't about profits alone, it was about integrity. About creating a legacy that I could be truly proud of, one built on solid ground, not on the shifting sands of deceit. The industry watched, some with skepticism, others with cautious optimism. But as Sterling's stock began to stabilize, then slowly climb, driven by real innovation and renewed trust, the whispers of scandal faded, replaced by talk of Daniel Sterling's remarkable turnaround. I learned that leadership wasn't about dominating others, but about inspiring them. It wasn't about control, but about creating an environment where talent could thrive. In the midst of this whirlwind of corporate transformation, I found solace in an unexpected place. I met Amelia, not at some lavish charity gala or exclusive club, but through a mutual acquaintance at a tech symposium. She was a brilliant cybersecurity expert, quiet but fiercely intelligent, with a warmth and sincerity that instantly drew me in. She knew nothing of the Sterling family's internal drama, and I, for the first time, found myself wanting to be completely honest with someone. I later married a good woman, Amelia, one chosen for her character and integrity, not her connections or manipulative charm. There were no grand pronouncements from my father, no beaming toasts. He attended, of course, a silent, disapproving presence, but his judgment held no power over me anymore. Amelia brought genuine happiness into my life, a partner who loved me for who I was, not for the name I carried or the empire I commanded. We built our own family, one founded on trust and mutual respect, a stark contrast to the twisted reality of my upbringing. My story became a stark reminder that power gained through deceit is fleeting, and true legacy is built on honesty and integrity. I learned that sometimes the greatest act of self-preservation is to expose the rot and rebuild on solid ground, even if it means confronting the very people who raised you. My father's actions had stripped me of my naivete, but they had also forged me into a stronger, more ethical leader. I had faced the ultimate betrayal and emerged, not unscathed, but undeniably transformed. The Sterling legacy would continue, but on my terms with a new foundation built on truth. And so, the journey of Daniel Sterling, from a naive heir to a purposeful CEO, concludes. His story is a powerful testament to the idea that even the deepest betrayals can forge an unshakable inner strength, and that true success is ultimately defined by character, not cunning. If Daniel's journey resonated with you, if you found yourself captivated by his resolve, please consider giving this story a like. Your support helps us share narratives that explore the complexities of human nature and the triumph of integrity. For more captivating stories of personal transformation and the intricate dynamics of power, be sure to subscribe to our channel. We genuinely invite you to comment below with your thoughts on Daniel's choices, your own experiences with betrayal, or any insights this tale may have sparked. We truly value your feedback and appreciate every single comment. Thank you for joining us on Daniel's Reckoning. We look forward to connecting with you again.